Hi everybody, this is a video I'm going to do. It's a healing of the world, a healing of myself. I've been called to do this specific thing at this time. I actually stand above the world, looking down. It is a beautiful world, but if you look deeper down inside, past the layers and the surface, just below the surface and deep down inside, you see the pain and the suffering of mankind, of the animals, of the trees, the flowers, the plants, everything. And you see Mother Earth crying, but she's not always crying. But if you look down, you can see this reflection of her. It's important to understand that it doesn't mean she's crying all the time. It just means there's a part of herself that is crying all the time. But there's other parts of herself that are very much solid, very much focused on what is important and what to do in life, and how to save this world, how to correct the issues. But this is a reflection I can see at this time, and this is a reflection that needs healing. Remember, all of us, every single soul on this earth, has multiple reflections of who they are. Your soul is so complex that you can see the light side of a person's soul, the dark side, the fragmented pieces. One of my specialties is to get the fragmented pieces back in balance again. The dark side isn't evil, it's not something to be afraid of. But the twisted versions that break off are the ones that are causing so much problems. Because a soul does not fragment because it's in the darkness. It fragments from a traumatic event, a horrible, awful thought, with so many different versions of why a soul fragments. Too many to just describe right now, but any traumatic event, any horrible thought, anything that is twisted versions of what love is, creates another part, another dark section of their soul breaks off and becomes twisted, and it's like a cancer to the earth. A lot of the times people talk about many things. One of the things I've noticed is they talk a lot about soul contracts. So I'm looking from above. Is there contracts for every soul on earth? Is there? It's a good question. It's also a very complex one. Soul contracts are a bit of an illusion. Because how can you say that if one soul comes to this earth and everything is predetermined, but then we wouldn't have any free will, would we not? So what they show me, and they showed me this many times in different versions, is that there's 8 souls. They walk together, or you could walk by yourself down into a spiral. 8 of them at first. Now they zoom out, and now there's 16, now there's 32, now there's 64, 128, and it gets bigger and bigger and bigger, to the point where there's trillions of possibilities. So how can we say that the soul contracts when there's so many possibilities of realities? Now, this is just my understanding. You can take this any way you want. So look at it this way. You're walking down a street at night, and you look down a corridor, a dark alley, And you look down that alley and something goes in the back of your mind. Keep walking. Don't go down the alley. Keep walking. So you keep walking. And nothing ever happens to you. Then there's another version where you walk down. And what happens if you choose to go down the alley? You walk down the alley and you get horribly beaten and murdered. Now you create two separate realities. Now there's also other realities, so many different possibilities in every single thought, major event in your life. Is it predetermined, or is it a series of events that might happen, depending on what your choice is? You could say that if you go when you're born and you go do everything perfect throughout your life, you'll end up to your higher self, or the best reflection of that you possibly can be. That's the ultimate goal, is to be the best possible person you can be, the best. Everything happens perfectly, and you go through life without ever making a wrong mistake or ever making a wrong decision. But then you go back and saying, well, there is no wrong decisions, because every decision creates a separate reality of who we are. And you're wondering, why am I saying this about healing the earth? Because every time our soul fragments from a traumatic event, it gets trapped within the world, trapped within the earth. So the earth Mother Earth is crying because of it. Every time the trees get cut down in a way that is traumatic. Like, in other words, a forest fire is a natural thing. It's expected. But when you have a company that goes and clear cuts a whole area for thousands of miles, is that natural? No, it is not. What happens if we stood up together and stopped that event from happening? Then that would change the course of those trees, and maybe change the course of history in a way we would never truly understand. And everything that lived there would still be living. But we do nothing, and it changes everything, every possible thing in the forest. Or we could step forward at any point along the way to stop that from happening, and it would change everything in that forest. The insects, the birds, the flowers, everything that grows, everything that lives in that forest, every person that walks through it would have a different experience depending on where you stop, what stage you stop the destruction of the forest. I know specific events that are almost like proof, in a sense. People always want to say, well, how can you prove that this specific thing is real? Well, how can you prove anything is real? That's another question. Those situations where you say, I don't want to, you go to work every day with an individual. You always sit in the passenger side, or the person that's driving. You go down to work and you do this every single day. And one day you sit at home and say, I don't want to go. Something doesn't feel right. So I'm not going to go with that individual today. I'm going to stay home. And then that person drives to work. Something goes through the windshield and plants about 6 or 7 inches into the seat, a piece of metal. This is an actual event. So what would have happened if you made the choice to go with that person like you did every day? You'd be dead right now, or severely wounded. And that would change the course of your history, change the course of everything in your life. But since you chose to stay home, you chose another path, or another reality was created. These events happen all over the world, all the time. Do they not? There's so many documented situations where people have not gone somewhere that they normally would have went, and something traumatic happened that would have changed their whole life. So what happens if every single thought, every emotion, every movement that we made created a different reality? and that all these realities are happening simultaneously in order to come to complete outcome, a perfect outcome. But what is perfect? Maybe all these simultaneous realities are creating a knowledge space way beyond our comprehension, that there is no wrong or right answer to anything. That there's times you will be murdered, sometimes you will not be. Sometimes you'll be tortured, some lifetimes you will not be. So every single moment that you make this choice, it changes the reality and the future that we're going to live in. And that's only just our version of our reality. What happens to all our other incarnations, all our other lifetimes, all throughout history. Every time we reincarnate on this earth, we choose to come back to this earth. So that lifetime goes through the same thing. And these are all happen simultaneously. Now you understand how contracts are useless, because there's so many versions of what might happen. So a soul contract, you may as well just throw it away. Because if you live your life saying that everything is predetermined, that we never have the ability to make a choice, it makes it very difficult to live a life. We have no free will, and we all know we have free will. So soul contacts are an illusion. Now there's things that happen in our life that might seem beyond our control. Like, for instance, if we did choose to go down, was that a wrong choice? No, it was not. It was a choice that was made at that specific time by that individual. Is that a wrong choice? No. Then you get a whole realm of suicide. Is that the right choice? Is that a choice? Yes. Is walking down the hallway and getting raped by another individual your choice? Getting murdered by somebody, is that a choice? Now that is the other person's choice, is it not? You choose to go down there, but then somebody else has the choice to make that decision to murder you. Is that the same as suicide? I'll leave that up to you. But my personal thing is completely different. We can choose to go left and right, but to choose to give up, I do never think that was ever a choice. Now, are we going to be condemned to hell for eternity? No, we will not. The question is what happens when an event happens, like a major event, murder, suicide, rape, all kinds of horrible things that could happen to individuals and people. What happens to our soul? Does it stay perfectly intact and happy-go-lucky, like nothing ever happened? We go into heaven and everything's healed miraculously? I think it's a little more complicated than that. Infinite souls. There's so many versions of our own souls that any traumatic event, what happens is that a traumatic event gets trapped for a while. Now we have the ability to go back and release that versions of ourselves. But to say that nothing bad happens when you commit suicide or when you get raped or murdered, it's extremely, these events create fractures in our soul that we have to eventually heal, go back inside ourselves, get other people to come back inside ourselves to heal these events. These are pretty serious topics, and they should be taken seriously. To say that nothing adverse will ever happen is it's a very complicated question, a very complicated thing to actual answer. But to say the souls, or not the souls, the spirits in the other realm are going to condemn you for it, no, they will not condemn you for suicide. They will not condemn you for being raped or murdered. They will try their best to heal you. The question is, will you be able to see them? Will those dark, twisted fragments that break off from these traumatic events see the spiritual realm? A lot of the times they do not. They get trapped in a dark version of our reality. Do we see spirits? Some people do, some people don't. But when you go down to a darker path, there is no seeing spiritual realm. At least not in the way that we see it. There's no seeing the light. Even when the light shines on them, they run in fear. What does that say? They do not understand the light. They don't see the light. So when they do see it, they run and hide. This is what happens to soul fragments that break off. They get to the point, well, a lot of times they don't even see light at all until somebody comes and shines the light on them. But only the souls on the physical realms are able to save and go into these soul fragments. The spiritual realms, if they cannot see the higher spiritual realms, they will never see them. It's a very serious topic, and people say suicide, there is no repercussions. The repercussions is that we create a hell within ourselves. We are the ones that create the adverse effects. We are, not the spiritual realm. Because we, as a physical being, as a physical human being, when the traumatic events happen to us, we fragment our souls in order to heal, in order to try to understand this event. So, yes, there's light parts of our soul that go to heaven, but there's other parts of our soul that are trapped in this reality. Sometimes they create an echo, like a ghost. And this ghost will get angry and angrier throughout time unless somebody allows it to move on. There's some more dark, twisted versions of what can happen. They become eventually a little more like demonic beings, feeding, destroying everything, and getting people to feel the pain and the suffering that they feel, never truly being able to heal from it, running from the light, petrified of the light, to the point where they don't even see the light anymore. This is what happens to fragmented souls. It is not a game. It is not something to say that nothing will ever happen. The problem is, if you are a perfect being, nothing would ever happen. But we are far from perfect. We are human beings trapped in a physical reality. Our understanding of everything is so limited. So how can we truly understand what some people call contracts? Life, trillions of lifetimes simultaneously living at one moment. Every decision that we make creates trillions in our realities. The past, present, and future all going together simultaneously. We think about something that we just shake our head and say that just is impossible to understand. That's because it is. We will never truly understand any of this in the capacity that we are right now. So that's something that you need to take in consideration. The next time you're judgmental to someone, the next time you condemn people, the next time you're mean to people, do you have the right to do any of that? So back to Mother Earth. I'm looking down at the souls below, trapped within the earth. I see the light within myself. So what do? Do I stay here and just look, or do I try to change things? Do I try to make a difference? That's all we can all do, is try to make a difference. Just try to find the crazy things that within inside ourselves to try to make some difference in this world. So I separate my soul into many different parts. I form a circular pattern all around the earth. I start to spin to the north, to the south, the east, and the west, farther back from all the other fragments. And I start absorbing all kinds of light from all different places in the universe. I keep spinning more and more. I ask the spiritual realm, God the Creator, archangels and angels to help me. And all of a sudden, as far as I can see in every direction. The souls, spirits that are helping. They're sending energy into the four parts of myself, which then they create beams of light to every other part of my soul, creating amazing type of grid pattern all around the earth with energy. All the smaller portions of my soul that are all around the earth are growing brighter and brighter and brighter until they form a seamless orb all around the earth. Then I take another version of myself and I start to spin really fast, absorbing all kinds of light. Angels pump energy, love, and light into me. And God sends a beam of golden light into my soul. I spin really quickly, faster and faster. I go down towards the earth. I pass through the energy barrier, slam into the center of the world, straight through to the core. I start to spin in the core, and every last one of the souls, parts of my soul, send energy down into me. So all the beams of light from all the souls around the earth, the four major parts, sending beams into all the smaller ones, and all the angels and archangels, spirit guides, God the Creator, are also sending light and love into the four, which goes into the many, which then goes down into the one version of myself. And I'm spinning extremely fast, and then I stop instantly. I get brighter and brighter and brighter. Never stop increasing the energy. I allow the energy to grow inside myself. I contain it within my own body. I get so super saturated with energy. The physical version of myself cracks away, and a light version of myself is completely shining through everything. It's getting so bright right now, brighter and brighter. I contain as much energy as I possibly can handle, more than I've ever allowed myself to contain within my own body before I release it. But there's something important to this. I continue to allow the energy to be absorbed into me. The light around the earth is blinding now, and I am blinding. I am so bright that the crust of the earth is even glowing right now. I'm starting to reach all the dark places in the world, breaking through the different dimensions, just from the light of them shining through me. I'm containing the energy within myself. I take my hands and I touch the earth, the core of the earth. And I start to spin so fast. I've never spun this fast in my life. I spin until I can't even see myself. It is just a ball of unbelievably bright light. I don't see any part of my spiritual body. It's just a ball of unbelievably beautiful light. The earth starts to warp. The core of the earth starts to warp. The world itself warps. I continue to spin. It causes something to tear. The world goes back in its place. It goes back into shape. But there's a tear here now. I take both sides of the tear, both my hands, and I do something extremely difficult to explain. I'm able to take that space and I pull it away from each other and I turn the world inside out, facing the light from above and within. All the darkness is exposed and instantaneously changes to light. There's nowhere to hide. The world itself is transformed in an instant. It is a round ball now. I pull everything into myself. Everything. And then I take myself and I tear my chest. I tear myself and I turn myself inside out. And the light shines throughout the whole universe in an instant. It is the most blinding light I have ever seen. I can't see anything at this point. Nothing at all. The light starts to dim. And I'm shining so bright. I allow my glow to release, to get darker. Enough that I can see again. I go back into the center of the earth. I touch the surface of the earth, and instantly everything goes back to the way it was before. There is still sorrow, but there was a lot that was released. You can still see the souls of the dark souls, the twisted souls, transforming into light. They're no longer dark souls anymore. They're vibrant pinpoints of light going towards the unbelievably bright aura around the earth. Mother Earth stops crying and looks up at the light. The light shows from above, and she smiles. She stands up and stretches and turns into a big tree. And she's a big tree. All the souls departed are now leaving the parts that were trapped inside the earth. Trillions of soul fragments released. I clap my hands together once, and all the energy around the earth ceases. All the soul fragments that I had around the earth go into myself, and the 4 other ones go into myself. I stand in front of a lake, a crystal clear lake with the sun shining off it. This reflection of the earth is healed. It is beautiful, it is perfect. But there's trillions more just like this one. See, I healed the whole world. But how many other versions other like this one that needs to be healed? So every time you choose to heal the reflection, should we choose to heal all of them at the same time? But how many more are created every single day with every choice that we make? It seems hopeless, but it's not. Because every single time we do this, we raise the Earth's vibration by a little bit. And if we all did this together, every day or every week, every month, we would have such a major impact on things that our lessons of darkness will be much less. So every time it is less, the more healing the earth can receive, and the less darkness that will be in the earth. Thank you, everyone. I'm Joseph Bradley from Amon Ros, and I'm a voice of Amon Ros. Thank you very much, and have a good day.